Welcome or welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, it's nice to meet you. I go by B. And if you're a returning viewer, then thank you so much for coming back for yet another crazy ramble. So, without further ado, let's get into this video. So, in case you are somehow unaware, this video I will be just sort of giving you a guide to how to become a reader. Since 2025 is wrapping up, we are in the final stretch, and 2026 is just right around the corner. I figure it is possible, I don't know if it's likely, but it's certainly possible that there might be some people who are, they don't really read, they're not readers, but they are considering becoming a reader as maybe a New Year's resolution, and I want to be here to help with that. So today I'm going to be giving you just a little guide on my thoughts on the best way to sort of become a reader or get into reading or any variation thereof. So I just want to preface this by saying that this is not necessarily like some end-all be-all guide of perfection or whatever. It's just, I've been a reader for great many years. Yeah, I don't know if it's a great many years, but it's like, most of my life I've been a reader. So I figure I would just share some of my thoughts and just give you a general guide for ways you can start getting into reading without all of those complicated things that you might find in other videos, like some people. And I think it's great, however you read, that's very great, and I just think the important thing is that you're reading. But some people will highlight parts of books, or they'll use tabs, or they'll do all these crazy things. And if you're not a reader and you're just trying to find a place to start, that can be really overwhelming, I'm sure. So I personally don't really do any of that stuff. My reading methods are very simple, so I figured I would share those in an attempt to help out anybody who's looking for advice on how to read. Or maybe if you are like a casual reader but want, more advice on how to become like a full reader, then that's great too. This video is for you all. So, first step is finding a book to read, because nothing else can happen as far as reading or being a reader if you don't have something to read. Now, I posted a few days ago a video that just was like a guide to the genres that I know about and some recommendations from a bunch of those genres. So if you need some recommendations on what to read, go check that out. I'll link it in the description down below. It would be probably helpful to you. And if you are somebody who is a big reader and somehow clicked on this video to watch, then hi, glad you're here. And maybe in the comments leave some recommendations for people, for books that would be good to get into starting off. And that'd be great. But in the meantime, in this video, I think it's different for different people. Some people, they go by aesthetic, like, that age-old saying, don't judge a book by its cover. A lot of people do judge books by their cover. They just go around and find one that looks cool and they pick it up. I will say that I myself have certainly done that before. Nothing wrong with it. That's very cool. But that can be not the best method, because sometimes the cover is not necessarily an indication of whether you like the book or not. I can think of some books that I think are a little ugly, that I love the story, but I don't like the cover. And books that have gorgeous covers where the story just kind of falls flat. So, feel free to judge a book by its cover, but judge it by other methods too. One would be reading the description. Descriptions don't always tell you everything about a book. Sometimes I read a description and then I'll read the book and think that it's completely different than what I was expecting, but descriptions are a good place to start. Those can be found, like certain books, in usually paperbacks, they'll have a description on the back, but hardcovers, usually on the back, they'll just have like a quote or reviews from other authors or, book review places. So where you want to look is You open the front cover of the book, and on the inside of the dust jacket, it will usually have a description of the book. And if it doesn't have a dust jacket, because sometimes you get a book and it doesn't have a dust jacket, and that's always very sad, then you might just have to look it up on like Google, or I often like to look at the book descriptions on Amazon, or Google should have like some synopsis, but you have to avoid spoilers. But that's an important step, definitely, is checking, the description of a book and seeing if it sounds like it's up your alley. And then, again, like I said, I love to go to Amazon because Amazon has a bunch of other features that can be very helpful. So if you're in a bookstore looking for books, you can, if you have time, you can look up the book on Amazon and it will show you release date, which can be good, page count, so like how long the book is, which if you're in a bookstore you don't necessarily need that, but if you're just looking at it online, that can be very helpful because online you don't get a sense of how big the book is. It'll show you oftentimes age range, like grade levels and stuff. I don't know if that's just for young adult books. I haven't really looked at many adult books on there to see if they still have an age recommendation. But if you do find a book and it's like a young adult book, it'll often say 12 to 13 or 14 to 18 or something like that. And again, that's not a perfect way to judge a book either, because I, for one, sometimes read books where it's recommended for 12-year-olds and I'm, several years beyond 12. But I'll still read those sometimes because, sometimes it's not always the most accurate rating by ages, and also sometimes it's just, I like stuff for younger kids or I like stuff for older adults. That's more of a preference-based kind of thing. But those can be good factors to help you decide if you'd like the book or not. Now, another awesome feature that's on Amazon, but also on different apps like I think Goodreads probably, and ones that I can't think of off the top of my head, but I know they're out there, is places that have descriptions, or not descriptions, but reviews of the book. And it'll do ratings, usually out of 5 stars, and you can see how many people rated the book and what the overall rating is. And that can give you a good sense too. Again, different people have different opinions. Several books that I've read they'll be 4.8 stars, and I just don't love them because it's not my cup of tea, but the majority of people do like it. Or sometimes I'll read a book that's 0.3 stars and I still like it. It all depends on the person. Reading's a very personal, subjective kind of thing, but that can be a good method too. And then reading reviews, as long as you are careful to avoid spoilers, because those will happen, but oftentimes people will give warnings before they put spoilers in reviews. But reading reviews can be a great way to know if you'll like the book or not, because people say what they did like about it, what they didn't like, and that can give you more of an idea of what it's about than the description can a lot of times. And it can explain why some people gave it 5-star ratings or why some people gave it 1-star ratings. And then because sometimes people gave it 1-star ratings because they didn't like a certain part of it, but then maybe that thing that they disliked is something that you like, and so it makes you think, then, you see that 1-star rating that's complaining about the book and you think, oh, that actually sounds really good, I'll read it. So those can just be some very useful methods for when you're picking out a book. And looking at genres can be very good too, but I think that's more of once you have read a few books and get a sense of what you like in a book, genres can be good guides then, but it's good to also branch out. Okay, now that step 1, picking out a book, has been completed, you move on to step 2, which I would say is, where do you start? Because sometimes books will be in series, sometimes they'll be standalones, and you have to make sure you're not getting the 3rd or 4th book in a series. Again, Google, Amazon can all be good ways to figure that out. On Amazon, you just look it up and it'll tell you book 2 out of 10, or just this is the book, and you can just double check that it's the first book or a standalone or whatever, and then you're set and good to go. Then sometimes it'll be complicated because books will have prequels, and usually if a book series is a prequel, you'll be able to find that out. And sometimes you don't need to read the prequel before you read the first book, but a lot of the time you do. So it's good to double check that it's the first book in a series or a standalone, and that if there's a prequel, it's not necessarily necessary for you to read first, or that you are able to find the prequel. And then you just open to the first page and you start reading. Simple as that. Now, step 3. Where do you stop reading? Some people like to read an entire chapter and stop at the end of a chapter. Some people like to finish a page before they stop. Some people like to finish a sentence. Some people... It's different for different people. I'm good at remembering the stuff I read, so I can stop in the middle of a sentence, middle of a page, middle of a chapter, anything really. I can just put down the book and stop. That was something that was very necessary for me to be able to do because I'd bring a book to school a lot of times, and I'd finish my classwork a couple minutes early, read a few pages, and then the teacher would be like, okay, and we're back to whatever we're doing, and I'd have to be able to set it down and just get right back into school again. So if you are a teenager or younger in school and reading, it might be good to find a book that has shorter chapters if you think you'll need to stop at the end of a chapter if you plan to read during class, or if you're at a job where you might have a few minutes to read here and there. Again, either find something with shorter chapters or make sure that you're able to stop in the middle of something. But it's really up to you of how well you can remember stuff that you've already read. Again, a lot of it's just you're gonna have to figure out as you go. The biggest thing with this whole guide to reading is just experiment, and if it doesn't work out right away, if you don't like the book you read, or if you struggle to remember it, or if you don't really get into it, you just have to keep trying, because I believe very strongly that there is a book out there for everybody, and that there are books out there that you might not like. No matter how much you like or dislike reading, there's a book out there for you. I really believe that, and you just have to keep trying until you find it. It might take a long time, but if you find your book, it'll be worth it. And that can often open up your way to finding other books that you might enjoy. So, with all of this, I hope that this is at least kind of helpful of a guide, and just keep trying. You'll find something eventually. So, now you have found a book, you know how to read it, when to stop reading it. Now, where do you read it? Like I said before, if you're in school, you can sometimes read it in those little moments when a teacher's doing something else and not teaching, but don't try to read while your teacher's teaching. I did try doing that. It's not good. Listen to your teacher. You'll find time to read outside of school. If you have a job or you maybe have some downtime, you can bring your book there if you want. That would be great too. But I think it's important, if you're not super into reading and feel like you have to, set aside a time, either each day or each week or something like that, where you just take however long you want, whether it's 10 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour, and you just read. Or set aside, I'm going to read this number of chapters. You have to be intentional about it if it's not really something you enjoy doing, because then that at least builds the habit, which can build the enjoyment if you do it right. And you should definitely find somewhere comfy to read if you can. I like to curl up on the couch or in a comfy chair or on my bed in a pile of blankets or some fuzzy socks or a fuzzy sweater, just somewhere generally cozy and happy because that just makes the reading experience more enjoyable. And I'd also say if you have a warm beverage like tea or coffee, or in the summer a cold beverage, lemonade, iced tea, whatever, soda, that can also make it more enjoyable. Just if you're, on a couch or something or in a nest of blankets, be very careful not to spill, especially if it's something sticky and that would get over everything. You don't want that. So be careful. Also, eating a snack, whether it's something healthy like carrot sticks, or if it's cookie, that can also be a good thing just to create more of an atmosphere. And yeah, general sense of just this is reading time, and it's not just reading time because you have all these other things too that can make it more of an enjoyable experience. And also, sometimes people I know like to find background music to read with. If that's your style, then that's great. Do that. It's not necessarily mine, but some people find it helps them get more in the zone of reading and in the mood, and I think that's great. Again, with all of this, it's very opinion-based and subjective, but I hope that this is able to help you find a way to get into reading and to start out. And if you're thinking about making it a New Year's resolution to start reading, you absolutely should. Reading can be amazing if it's done right. I know that sometimes school or just life can ruin your experience with books. And if that is the case, if you've had something ruin your experience in reading, I'm really sorry that that happened. That is very sad. Reading can be a wonderful thing, and I think it's horrible that it often gets ruined for people at a young age. But I think it's awesome that you're considering reading again, and I hope it goes really well for you. Again, it can be a great New Year's resolution, I think, or just, if you want less pressure, you just find a book and start reading. No matter what, reading can add so much to your life, and it can be such a wonderful thing. So I highly recommend it. I think that's pretty much it. If you have any further questions or want to drop any advice or information or opinions or anything in the comments, that would be wonderful. I hope that your attempt to start reading goes well. And if it does, you'll have to come back and let me know. If you are a reader and have advice for someone, then please put it in the comments. Yeah, just comment. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you don't miss any one of my videos. Go check out another one of my videos. I have a lot of book ratings, which can also help you find a book. And like I said, I posted that video a few days ago about different book genres, which could also be helpful. Have any questions? Drop them in the comments. I'll try to get back to you. Have a great day and happy reading!